It's an Audible Wednesday. We're here in the Dolphins bubble, the house that Nick built here, right?
No doubt about
the
it.
bubble here, the Nick Saban Memorial bubble here, or whatever you want to call it.
That's one of the few things he built here.
That's right. Andy Cohen with us, AC in the AM, 6 a.m. every morning, Monday through Friday. You can catch his work. What you working on this week? You're working on William Hayes until he didn't show up on you.
I don't start writing
until you got
4 in
stiffed.
the morning.
Yeah.
So I've got a piece on Matt Burke tomorrow, and Matt Burke, I think, is a great story on this team. I mean, for people who doubted whether he could do it, I lead my column with a story that Mike Hull told me. First play, first game at the Chargers. Mm-hmm. He had researched all week a formation, and if Los Angeles opened in that formation, he was going to do an all-out blitz because it was a giveaway run. Yep. Mike Hull's telling me the story. They opened in that formation. Yep. He said to Mike Hull, "I'm not going to coach scared. Let's do it." Yep. And they just smothered Gordon.
Chase Allen came in and made
Chase
a
Allen
tackle
and
for a
Kiko
loss. Came
smothered
off the corner,
him. And Mike Hull said to me, "From that point on, I knew this year was going to be fun."
Yeah.
And it is fun with him.
It is, yeah. And you know what? He's a good guy. He's a good communicator.
He is,
and I think he's got that infectious personality that these guys rally around.
He's also the smartest person in the room, and doesn't act like the smartest person in the room. A lot of times, the guy who thinks he's the smartest person in the room isn't.
Yeah, usually it's the other end. He's the dumbest guy in the room.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
But this guy is the smartest guy in the room, and he doesn't act like it. Yeah. He's just impressive.
So, Andy, here we are. This football team 3-2, and I know how much they don't want to talk about last year, but boy, it just seems eerily familiar to last year, doesn't it? I mean, you kind of find yourself for the first 3 games where you're like, man, this offense, we can't get a first down, we can't do anything, and then boom, you go and beat somebody that last year was Pittsburgh. Right. Pittsburgh's coming to town. Oh, you got no shot against the Steelers.
No shot.
They're going to crush you guys. You win that, then you win 6 straight. You end up winning 6 straight, and here you go to Arizona or Atlanta last week, and everyone's going, hey, I think we're 12.5-point underdogs, biggest dogs of the weekend, right? And you go out there and you beat the defending NFC champions with a 20-point comeback in the second half.
It's remarkable, Kim, with all this team has overcome, that it's 3-2 right now. I mean, you could have easily made a case for 1-4 like last year. When you consider everything that's gone on with this team, it's really a credit to the team that they're 3-4. They beat the Jets. They're 3-2. They beat the Jets. They're 4-2. It really is a remarkable story, even when you consider how poorly this offense has played. How have they won 3 games?
Yeah, no, exactly. Well, look, I mean, we last year at 1-4, we're saying how'd they win that Cleveland game? Because they certainly didn't do anything, any great shakes to win that. But then they took off, and that's when I've talked to players, I've talked to coaches, and said and they kind of poo-poo the idea. I said, could this game against Atlanta be that game, that springboard game that did get you? You got your offense going, defense is getting better each and every week.
It is.
Your special teams are playing well for you. They're covering well. Your punter's punting the ball well. You got 2 big
kicker
field goals
hasn't
from
missed.
Parkey again. Yeah. And so you got from that second half. That second half was the first time this year we've seen this team play a full 30 minutes, offense, defense, special teams that were successful, that were executing properly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And now the challenge and the trick is to show that what happened in the second half at Atlanta wasn't a one-time thing, wasn't a blip on the radar, but was a clear indication of what this offense can do and will do moving forward. The answer to my question initially, how could they be 3-2? It's the defense. Yeah. I mean, the defense is playing phenomenal. Yeah. I mean, when you think about a linebacker, how thin they were and how rich they are now at linebacker, it's amazing. It really is remarkable.
You've been around here a long time, and you've seen some good linebacker play. I think those 3 guys right now are as good a group as they've had on this football team for a long time. I mean, you look at Timmons. Timmons is playing out of his mind.
Tremendous.
Kiko's playing as well as you could ask Kiko to play. He's playing great football for you. And then you bring a Ray in there. And I think the good thing about Ray is, Ray's not an every down guy.
No.
And they're in nickel a good. So Ray's probably in there for 15 snaps a game. But when he's in there, he's making an impact, and he's usually making an impact at or on their side of the line of scrimmage.
It hasn't been very often when the Dolphins have had 3 veteran linebackers like this starting. They've had 1 veteran, But now they've got two guys, and Timmons and Maluga have been around double-digit years, and Alonso's been around a while. Suddenly what was Chase Allen, Mike Hull, and a lot of thread and hope is three experienced veteran linebackers who know what they're doing out there and make a difference every Sunday.
And then you throw William Hayes on there, who's really the one of the great kind of under the radar signings that this team has made. Ever.
Yeah, he plays about 15 plays a game, and 5 of them are impactful. And that's crazy when you think about it.
It is. And the defense is playing well, and they're only going to get better. And I hate to say it, but a few weeks you have T.J. McDonald popping up back there.
And believe me, he's going to play.
And then that defense is going to be very, very scary.
There's a reason the Dolphins signed him to a long-term contract after watching him in the preseason. He can play.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So good thing if this offense can get going. But you got the New York Jets coming to town, and we saw just a few weeks ago. That was a football team everyone had written off after 2 games. Worst team in the league. They're going for the #1 draft pick. This isn't going to be a game. And I kept saying, well, wait a minute. It's their home opener, and home openers bring sometimes they bring that juice. They bring the adrenaline, and the Jets use that as a springboard because now they're sitting there. They're 4-3 right now. What are they? They're
3-3.
3-3 right now. Yeah.
It's an odd year, Kim.
It is.
First of all, the Giants winning, not the Giants, Pittsburgh winning at Kansas City last week proved that there's no great teams.
Yep.
It's really an odd year because there isn't a lot of difference between the teams at the top of the heap and the teams at the bottom of the heap.
What's interesting to me about this season so far is every week, and look, I see one game a week. I see the Dolphin game, because
do you enjoy it, Kim?
I do.
Okay,
I do.
Good.
But so you know how it is. You get on the bus and you start looking at the other scores,
right?
And you're going, "Wow, that team beat that team. How did
Giants beat Denver?
What? They beat that? Yeah, it's been an odd season from the standpoint of you always get the upsets, but it seems like every week there are 3 or 4 that just head scratch. You go, how could that have happened?
That's why the Jets beating the Dolphins 4 weeks ago was not that great a surprise, given the entire landscape and what's happening in this league.
I think that was one of those weekends where everybody was getting upset. I think New England they needed to play with 24 seconds left in the game to win that game. It was one of those weeks, and then a bunch of other teams that you expected to win didn't win. So yeah, it was a crazy week, and there's been a bunch of crazy.
But they need to win this game
absolutely
for the AFC East too, because this is their last AFC East game for about 5 weeks.
And you can't. Look, you
can't start 0-2.
You can't drop 2 division games.
And you can't lose both games to the Jets.
You can't drop 2 games to the Jets. No, you can't do it. Look, they're playing better right now, but when you look at the rosters, you got to say Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins are a better football team than the Jets. They've just got to go out there and execute, which they didn't do up in New York.
I expect them to come out and play with the same passion and urgency that they showed in the second half at Atlanta. If they do that, they'll be fine.
I'm with you on that. Let's go here. Freddie Tank Flores, how do you think the Dolphins measure up against the Jets? Well, I think the Dolphins measure up well. And oddly enough, Andy, the one thing that was odd last week was, Pouncey gets blown out of the game with a concussion. He's out. Not sure if he's going to be able to play this week. And Jake Brendel comes in, and they didn't skip a beat. That offensive line just kept dominating, moving down the field, doing it. So Steen and Brendel both played well in the absence of Mike Pouncey, which to me is a big bonus, knowing that you've got a little comfort there with Mike, depending on how long he's going to be out.
The key stat in the first Jets game to me was Jay Ajayi, 11 carries, 16 yards.
Yep.
Can't have that.
No.
Can't have that. The key to this offense, maybe the key to the team, because when he's playing well, the defense is on the sidelines, is Ajayi establishing himself early, breaking tackles, moving the chains. He didn't do that the first time against the Jets.
Yeah.
I think you're going to see a more concerted effort to get him going early this week.
Yeah. Periscope question from here. Man called Jane. What changed? I like that man called Jane. I like those names.
Yeah, it's cute.
What changed with the O-line to allow them to play so much better? It certainly didn't change personnel-wise.
Kim, didn't they play more 2 tight end?
Well, no, they always play a lot of two tight end. They play some triple tight. They play double tight.
But when Parker's healthy, they play a lot of Landry Parker stills, and that takes away the two tight ends.
It does.
Well, with Parker out, I think they
did play more. They
played more Landry Stills and Fasano
triple
Thomas.
Tight, and they played Marquise Gray. They played all three of them at times.
And I think that could have made a difference.
Yeah, but look, I think in running situations they've played too tight and they've just gotten beaten. I just think they're executing better. I think I think they looked at themselves and said, hey, look, especially you look at Tunsil and you look at Juwan James, and look, I know everyone was upset with that, with Tunsil coming over or with James coming over the top and getting but I'm sitting there going, that's
Way
what
to
I
go.
want to see.
Taking
That's
care of a
what
teammate.
I want to see.
Right.
I want to see him play like that, be that kind of guy, because Juwan, he's a nice guy, and I think he plays kind of along that lines. I want him to see that guy. So I'm the one. Everyone else, I'm listening to these guys on the radio.
How can he do that?
And I'm sitting there going, yeah, that's what I want
I
to
just
see.
think the offensive line said enough is enough.
Yes,
I mean,
exactly.
we're better than this, and we need to play better than this, and that's what they did.
Yep. Facebook, Greg Reed, is it a safe bet that Hayes stays in Miami? I don't think he's going. I don't think they want him to go anywhere. I think he's pretty happy here.
No.
I think he's happy in the scheme. I think he's happy with what he's doing. I'd keep him here as long as you can keep the guy.
Yeah, he's like Timmons. In that regard.
Yeah, he is very much.
I mean, all the guy does is make plays.
Yep. Another one, Fins up 54. Which rookie do you believe is the bigger surprise, Gottschall or Tankersley? I think Gottschall is just playing well, and Vincent Taylor's also playing well when he gets in there.
I'm surprised by Tankersley too, because I really didn't think. I thought he was going to be more of a project. I really didn't think he was going to step in and produce and play so well.
I think, quite frankly, I think the coaches are surprised. I think because look, he wasn't even active early in the season, and I know just some conversations they're saying, look, he needs to figure this game out a little bit. He needs to, but some guys. You've been around. Some guys are practice players, and some guys are gamers.
Some guys get a chance out of necessity, and it turns out it was the best. It was the best move at all. And this was a move out of necessity, and it's worked out.
Yep. And I'm it's having him back. One thing I like about him, and I've said it over and over, I like the fact he's just challenged. He challenges receivers. He's physical. He's not waiting for them to catch the ball and then going up and trying to tackle them. He's at the ball when the ball's getting there. Not making all the plays, but certainly. He made the play at the end that got Rashad the ball and and allowed him to win that football game.
Wouldn't it be nice if they have their two young cornerbacks now for years to come?
Well,
I mean, early on, McNeil and Judson, they were together for a while. Madison and Sertain, they were there for a while. Wouldn't it be nice if the Dolphins can now stop their search for guys on the corner?
You got a rookie in there that's playing well, and you got a second-year guy that really I think Xavier is going to be a big-time cornerback. So I was thinking the same thing. You got your corners that you feel pretty good about going forward. So
and you could be that way at safety when McDonald comes back and you got Jones. You could have your secondary intact for a while now.
Hey, Adam Gase. Well, you talk about a young coach that
has been through everything.
Man, I was thinking about this the other day. So, there are coaches. There are coaches that have been coaching this league and been head coaches for a decade, 20 years, and never went through one thing that he's gone through this year. And he went through a hurricane. He went through the team traveling, losing your quarterback,
your offensive
line coach. Your one of your free agent guys goes AWOL a game on you.
I don't think in the manual there was a chapter on all this. I really don't. I think he's doing it on the fly.
Yep.
And actually, for somebody who covered Bullygate when it was around, he's really done a good job of keeping the focus of his players, keeping his focus and the focus of his coaching staff. As he said in his press conference, there is nothing we have not seen.
Yeah, no, and the other thing is when you talk to players, they talk about we're 0-0. This is another game, and we're not looking back, and this and that. And every time I interview players, every time I talk to them, they adhere to that. You try to go, hey, a couple games back, we're not looking at that. We're just looking at so he's had a way of somehow. Usually coaches will try to do that. Some guys go, come on, bullshit, But I think I think these guys listen to him. I think they wrap their arms around it and they believe in it and they live it.
Did you do that as a player, Kim? Could you focus if you have the Jets waiting or Buffalo waiting, and you knew how important that? Did you catch yourself looking ahead a week or two?
No. Look, the one I've always been like right now. I don't know who the Dolphins play next week. I don't know who they play after that.
Ravens Thursday night. Two games in 7 days.
I just don't pay. I pay attention to the game coming up, and maybe that's just the way from having played my whole life. That's just that's all the way I've always done.
Well, then maybe the players do it that way, and maybe they do stay focused.
But I'm not saying I think players have always done it that way, but I'm just talking about some of the smaller things, some of the other little nuances that he's kind of brought to this football team. That you just like. Hey, look, the game's over from last week. We're not talking about it anymore. We're moving on.
I think there was a great scene at the end of the Falcon game when Jarvis Landry came up to Gase from behind and gave him a big bear hug.
Yeah.
I mean, that's legitimate emotion, and that's caring for your coach.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't make that up.
Yeah.
And that's great to see.
And look, for 2 years he's been here, a year and a half that he's been here. These are some of the closest teams I've seen. I mean, camaraderie-wise,
right?
This is a tight.
And the new players coming in are noticing that.
Yeah. Kevin Schlemp. How do you pronounce that? Kevin Schlemp. Schlemp.
Just call him Kevin.
Kevin. Do you think the offense will show up for 60 minutes on Sunday? I hope so.
I hope so.
I mean,
I'll take 48 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to see. Well, you know what? If they're not going to be there for 60 minutes, I'd like to see the best 30 minutes come at the front of the game.
Oh yeah, I would too. Let it be 24-3 at the half,
exactly.
and then worry about coasting
the rest. And then hang on the rest of the way.
Right.
I'd rather go that way than the other way. I think everyone else out there would too. Facebook, Glenn Parisa, won't Cutler continue to get better just because of daily work with the receivers? Yeah, I think he's going to get better, but he's got to get more consistent. He's got to get more consistent. It was funny, Andy. I was watching the game. I was out there watching pregame warm-ups, and you sometimes people don't believe you play like you practice.
Right.
So I'm watching, and he's throwing routes to throwing to receivers, running routes, and every time Jarvis would run that little in cut, that little crossing route, he threw the ball down by his ankles. I'm going, God, he's got to get the ball up. Throwing it down to his ankles. Like 3 or 4 times in pregame warm-ups. What happened in the game? 3 or 4 balls. The balls that he dropped, all down around his ankles. And I go, that's exactly what I saw him doing.
Play the way you practice.
It's exactly what I saw him doing in pregame warm-up. Same way he threw the ball in the game. So it's, he just got to get more consistent.
He needs to be more consistent.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah. Rick J. Johnson. If Parker can't go, will Grant and Carew get the start? Well, Carew got the start last week out there. Again, you talked about the tight ends. I'm sure tight ends will be a big part of that. But they want to get Jakeem in there too. Jakeem came up with a big play with he got a pass interference called on him, and to me at that point that was as good. It was as good as catching the ball. But I think they want to see more of Grant in there. Because they know the big playability he's got.
I think they're going to come out against the Jets and really try to set a physical tone. I really do. And I think they're going to play 2 tight ends and feed Ajayi the ball, try to create some first downs that way, then open the passing game.
Stephen Gase, why can't we turn Grant loose on the outside? Well, they put him out there a few times, and I can just tell you this. Grant did a lot of good things in the preseason, and this ain't the preseason anymore.
No.
And running down the field, running down and just kind of getting wide open, it doesn't happen so much in the.
And if the questioner knows that, the opponent knows that too, and people spy him all the time. That doesn't mean he can't. That doesn't mean he won't. Just not as easy as it was in the preseason. Yeah, you're listening to the Audible. Kim Bokamper here. Andy Cohen with you. AC in the AM, Monday through Friday, 6 a.m. You can catch it on Dolphins.com. Get all the latest information on that. What are your thoughts on El Chapo Jr.? What are your thoughts on Gase's play call on the Landry touchdown? I thought it was awesome. I mean, first of all, they had everybody chasing to the right side of the formation. And then as soon as I saw Jarvis turn, I go, whoa, what's this? And then wide open. The ball was supposed to go to Kenny Stills. Right. It was designed to be a play to Kenny Stills, but this, when Jarvis had to be alert, and Cutler had to be alert to see it and know that, that he was going to be that open. I asked Landry in the locker room this week if he thought about one-handing it because he loves his one-handed catch. He says, but Gase would have killed me, so I just did it the normal way. Well, you'd had a couple drops in the first half. Yeah. So they're like, no. Right. I'm going to take this one in, and I'm going to make sure I got it, no doubt about it. Rod Sarnecki, checking in from Portland, Oregon. Nice to have you on from Portland, Oregon. Appreciate you watching the show and chiming in. Roberto, 1979. Miami defense looks almost elite. Can they be? I think they're getting there, Andy.
I'm looking for weaknesses in this defense, and especially when you extrapolate out to T.J. McDonald coming back, and you figure out what this group is going to be like after that. Man, I don't see a whole lot of holes in that group.
I think, Kim, the offense needs to keep them off the field.
Yep.
And if the offense can run more plays, the defense is even going to be better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas if the offense do a lot of 3-and-outs, it's going to put a lot of pressure on the defense, make it more difficult to be top tier. So the offense needs to comply. If the offense complies, this defense can be really good.
You know what I liked about this game, the defense this game? I like the last series. The Falcons get the ball back. I want to say there was, three and change, maybe somewhere right around there that they had left.
Right.
And we've seen it before, Andy. We've seen Matthew Stafford. We've seen Aaron Rodgers.
Oh, yes,
we've seen those guys come down and drive the ball down the field. Boom, touchdown, game over, we win. But what I like that they did, they made them earn it. They made them earn it. They didn't give up the big plays. No. They had to take more play after play. And you know what? The philosophy I've always been taught is the more snaps that they've got to the more times they got to snap the ball, the more chances they have to make a mistake.
Sooner or later.
And we capitalize. And that just reminded me of one of those old Dolphin defenses, going back to the no-name defense and the killer bees, and where you get there in a game and they got to work their way down the field, and eventually they drop a ball or someone picks it off, and you end up the game with an exciting finish like you ended it with Atlanta with Rashad Jones.
See, that's the difference with this year's defense is they're making plays like that.
Yep.
And it was so important in the game. It was so important for this defense, and it gives it a lot of confidence moving forward.
No doubt. Just make them take as many plays as they have to get down, because that was Arnsparger saying, the more plays they make, the more plays they have to play, the more chances they have of putting the ball on the ground and us coming up with it or picking it off along the way. Joey Bag of Donuts, hey, Bo and Andy, the Dolphins have the most drop passes in the league. How do we improve that? Well,
start catching
the ball, and that's all. To me, it's all about concentration.
Yeah, I mean,
because
you see Jarvis Landry drop. He's got great hands, Kim.
Look, all those guys have great hands.
They do.
They all have great hands. I sit there sometimes and just watch them in front of the jugs machine, and it amazes me how
I see Landry put his hand like 4 inches from the jugs machine and catch the ball. It's crazy.
There you go.
There it is.
And I probably got
Thanks
the worst.
for the help.
I can barely even hold the football anymore. My hands
it's
are so
crazy.
Tattered and broken and whatnot. Where are we at here?
Where are we?
Yeah, most drop passes. I think it's just concentration. And look, I tell you what I'd like to see taken out of this offense is, and I understand guys are trying to make plays, trying to pick up extra yards. How many plays have we seen this year where guys have backed up, caught a ball, given ground to try to make the big play, only to be dropped?
Don't like that.
2 yards short of the first down, 3 yards short of the first down.
That's like a 6-yard pattern on a 3rd and 8.
No, and I understand it, but look, I mean, I'd rather see. Look, you see, take that, move upfield, not downfield.
Okay. Get the yards.
Yeah, because it's just every time I've seen it this year, it's never led to a big play. It's always led to a big loss or a disappointing fact that you didn't make a first down that you needed because you're trying to get that big play. How do we get the tight ends more involved in the offense? That's from McLovin. I think they've got to play. I think they've got to play better. I think they've got to get open. I think Julius Thomas, to me, probably when you talk about surprise, I'm surprised Julius hasn't made more plays.
I am too. I am too, especially because Gase coached him, knows what his skill set is,
and likes to throw to a tight end,
and knows how to put him in position to succeed. Has Fasano gotten the ball this year?
I think he had one. I think he's got one catch, maybe two targets.
He's got very good hands.
He does.
I saw him in Kansas City a few years ago, the coldest game the Dolphins ever played.
I remember,
made like a behind-the-back, one-handed catch to win the game. He's got very good hands.
He does, and I think the Dolphins would. I'd like to see him go to my. I'd like to see him. I think
that needs to be a part of this offense.
It does, because the way the offense is going right now, they need that. You got a tight end running down the middle of the field that's a threat, and it opens things up outside. Now I think DB's kind of lay off a little because they don't see it as that big threat running down the middle of the field.
Right,
and it needs to become a threat.
I agree.
Jamar Jumper, I like the toughness on both sides of the ball last game. Will we see it again? Well, it's. I
wish I had a crystal ball.
If you're like us and you've watched every one of these games, you could see great, You can see real bad because we've seen it all.
It's hard to bottle something and say, whenever we want, just open the bottle and we're going to pour it out. Yeah. You know, it's difficult. There's so many factors come into play. You would think that they understand and they have a grasp now of what they did in the second half against Atlanta, what it took, the effort it took, the mindset it took, and that they're going to do everything they can to duplicate that.
David Bolivar, Facebook question. What do you think about playing Pouncey at guard? I don't like it.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it.
He's a center.
You know, he's a center. He's a Pro Bowl center. Why do you want to put him in a position where he's not going to be as good at that position?
He's saying because Brendel played well.
I understand that.
But, that's one game Brendel played well. Pouncey has been playing well for years.
Yes.
And as long as he's healthy, there's nobody I'd rather have
And look, for the first 4 games before he left that game in Atlanta, Pouncey was playing very good. He was the most consistent and most consistently good guy. Guy playing on that offensive line. So, no, I wouldn't do that. Because look, we saw it last year when he was out for a long time, and I remember Steen and Urbeck came in, and that first game, they played well. Once you see him on tape, it's like a
hard to sustain.
It's like a pitcher in baseball. You know, the first time you see him, okay, by the third time you're at the plate, you guys are ripping the ball out of him, out of the park. So, it has a lot to do with that. How do we get Drake more involved in the offense? Well, the unfortunate thing is if the offense is running the way you want it to run, you're not going to see Drake much.
No, you're going to see Ajayi a lot. Yeah. 11-0 when he's carried at least 18 times in his career. I mean, come on. I mean, Kenny Drake has a place on this team. Certainly in the passing game, certainly on special teams. But you want to go with Ajayi.
Yeah, I want to say Drake maybe last week, just off the top of my head, probably got 5 or 6 snaps maybe from the tailback position, and Damian Williams got a couple snaps in there too. So they're spelling.
That's probably the formula.
Spelling Ajayi to give him a little break, but you need to have, because he's a wear down guy. The more he plays, the more defenses wear down, the less they want to stick their head in front of him.
You see that every game he does well. You see the wear down effect,
and you see big second halves. I mean, he had back-to-back 18-yard runs when you need it in the third quarter in that football game. And look, I remember every long run that he had last year came in the third, fourth quarter,
right?
Because
Buffalo,
teams
the
just
Steelers,
got worn down.
You're right.
It pays the dividends. So, look, and believe me, I know people. I get people. Well, they're running him too much. He runs too hard. He's this and that. That's what he does. And believe me, he's the last guy that wants to come out of the game. He wants more carries, not less carries.
He does want more carries. I think 23, 24 carries is about right. Fine.
Yeah, it's a good number for him. All right, Andy. Pleasure, my man.
That's it already?
That's going to do it.
Wow.
It was an Audible Wednesday. It's
Time flies.
It's gone. No mistakes by Leon. Good camera work by Logan. Jeff's doing everything he's supposed to do.
Thank you, gentlemen.
What time are we on Friday then, Leon? 6, he said.
6. Not 5.
We're on at
7.
6.
6.
Classic Leon. On at 6. Maybe we'll do it at 7. All right, that's going to do it for the show. We'll catch you Friday. It is a football Friday. We'll be at Northwestern and Central. Trask Powell. We'll be there at 6 o'clock. If you want to come out and join us, stop by and say hello. Until then, we'll see you.